tell. Really, really awesome for those guys.
We just got word that the next map is going to be on Daybreak. We did get the chance to see Supernova pull off some successful mech against Vortex on this map. It's a little easier to manage than the huge, wide-open attack path worthy Entombed Valley. But Bomber is much more known for taking that center expansion first, attacking like crazy with Marine Tank and low medevac counts. Let's go ahead and hop into game number 2.
And we will do, and up to the top right-hand corner, ladies and gentlemen, on Daybreak, spawning here as your blue Zerg. Give it up for Azubu's viOLet.
And down in the bottom left, clawing his way from the open bracket to first in his group, his first match of the day, the Red Bull-sponsored athlete, StarTales Bomber. You know, we do talk a lot about how Elfie, viOLet, getting the chance to be that individual sponsor, but Bomber on StarTale and was the first big StarCraft gamer picked up by Red Bull.
Yeah, that's very true.
He has like an individual and a team sponsorship. Can it get any better?
They sponsor the full team now, don't they, I believe?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so Bomber, they're leading the way for Red Bull to be able to come along and sponsor them. And, you know, I think it's a very, very applicable choice in Bomber. Bomber is one of those Koreans that, whilst you don't see him too much at international tournaments, he has a great personality. Whenever, you know, you see him ecstatic at the end of a game, he's always dropping all the mules, creating his scan flowers, and just like telling them, get out of my game, this is my game, I have won, go, go, go. And it's really nice to see there. Bomber has been quite the character.
Oh, really lucky plant there by Bomber. Oh my God, that actually should not have gone down. He somehow managed to shove the drone out of the way, pushing him like young children at a school line, getting each other out of each other's way to be first. Bomber manages to plan down that command center. And you know, I remember what you were talking about, dropping the mules at the end of a one game and this sort of thing. I still remember in the GSL code.
That's a bit annoying.
I still remember in the GSL Code A finals when Bomber went up against MVP.
Yeah.
In game number 1, it was a really tense match. And all of a sudden, Bomber drops a man or mule right there in the front.
Yeah.
And then he dropped another and another. And he dropped over 20 during the course of this nail-biting game where he eventually won. And I was just so blown away at that bravado. I mean, everyone loves the moment where you've killed every worker he has. He has a 0% chance of winning. Yeah, I have a man or mule. He's doing it when the game's clearly losable. That's so bold.
It is, but to be honest, I'm waiting for the one day where someone doesn't have enough scouting information to realize how close a game is. Then Bomber comes along and drops like 10 mana mules, and then they're like, oh God, he must be so far ahead. And then they're just like, GG, I'm leaving.
All right, oh God, there is no better feeling than being man or mule than then winning. I will admit. Yeah, this is the play I like out of viOLet. He's going to be opening up with around 8 or 9 roaches and then falling straight back to droning. We saw him accidentally lose with this play versus MVP, but viOLet, all he needs to do is join these bases with creep, and then he'll be okay. Then he can get his 3 or 4 queens to just wishy-wash their way back and forth for safety.
Yeah, and it's also really important here that while StarTale Bomber is getting his factory up, and it will be probably going into the Hellion play, which isn't too good against that.
Wait.
It's why isn't he making a reactor?
There is no reactor. What's going on?
But what I wanted to point out is that it's so important to get that second supply depot right here on that ramp when you're actually going up against this, because this bunker, if you don't have that and you can't pin your units in a position where the bunker is still firing at them, then this positioning just becomes so redundant here for Bomber, and it was completely pointless the whole time.
This is something special that we're seeing out of Bomber. This is something just cool. He's basically going to be going for a Banshee play, as you might imagine. The Banshees are what save you against a roach push like this. There would allow you to continue to apply pressure. So he is both going to get the unit that will save him without over-committing to the units, these Hellions, that will lose it for him, and their Bomber sees this stream of roaches coming in. Oh, Bomber's got to be licking his lips right now. He realizes but he has got his opponent right where he wants him.
Yeah.
Well, he has to build the Banshee first. There we go.
And there we go. That second supply depot, finishing up that wall, so important. We've seen actually once or twice that not be there in this tournament, and it's really cost people their entire lives in some of these games. And for now, viOLet will start the pressure, killing off 1 or 2 workers here. That Hellion still spotting more roaches flooding across the map. And for now, viOLet needs to do what he can before that Banshee ends up coming out.
Wow, this is turning out to be quite effective for viOLet. I mean, everything works logically on paper from Bomber, but I mean, roaches just kill things quickly, and that's something that you really have to account for. Backup bunker up on the high ground, and here the tank pops up. Keep in mind, MVP was able to win handily after that much damage was dealt, but it looks like viOLet is a little bit more comfortably prepared, building 2 queens at once, but still no creep join. He needs that creep join, or he is going to potentially suffer a loss similar to what he'd lost before.
Yeah, these Banshees, I mean, he has killed 9 workers with that Roach attack, but these Banshees, they're designed to be able to equalize the odds from this point on against what we're seeing here from viOLet. So they're going to head out across the map. Starter Bomber for now, grabbing that 3rd expansion, but at the same time, it's still 40 drones here to 30 workers, so he really needs some good kills here with this Banshee.
He really needs to make sure this tank doesn't die. More of those workers are under threat from viOLet. He is going to get every single one of them. viOLet knows the edge he has right now.
We'll be able to flee away. And where's that Banshee actually? Okay, it's been spotted here by the Overlord, so he can take the precautions against that necessary. Meanwhile, we actually have 1-1 being upgraded here for viOLet, and he's adding on that macro hatchery. So it looks like he's going to go for a very heavy Ling mid-game here, focusing a lot on that lava as he goes into the middle, and actually adding on the Baneling nest as well, just to, well, probably transition into that very, very standard mid-game.
Oh, looks like the roaches still being annoying, still picking off workers. Most cost-effective roaches ever. I mean, roaches are the opposite of cost-effective. They're just these cheap, beefy, annoying units that puke on things and get you wins every now and again. But here, viOLet making them stretch nice and far. And if there's one unit that I would pin as the Bomber unit, it would be the tank against Zerg. He gets so many tanks so early. He has he of all Terrans is the worst to do early Roach Baneling all-ins against, because he just gets a ton of tanks early. And it's just like, yeah, attack me. I built tanks, man. I mean, there are no StarCraft 1 tanks. Those things were awesome.
Space controllability in StarCraft 1 very strong for Terran here. I mean, it's still strong for Terran in StarCraft 2. It's just a case of, you know, things have just the epic mobility that they do in this game, as opposed to, you know, StarCraft 1. Like, Zerglings are able to close the gap a little bit quickly here, and other than that, you know, just floods of units able to come in on, you know, one control group, as opposed to how you had to operate things in StarCraft 1.
Bomber now getting into his standard macro mode, the 3 barracks formation, 2 with reactor, 1 with tech lab, getting them add-ons, slowly adding on tanks, and per usual in Bomber style, this starport will not see a reactor for quite some time. He's going to focus more on upgrades, getting +2/+2, as we see the armory planting there by the 2 engineering bays. And viOLet very smartly just keeping an eye on that 3rd base of his opponents while getting up the 3rd base of his own.
And I love the addition of that Viking. It's great. You don't see this often enough, although that being said, you were seeing it way more than we used to. As for
so
now,
good.
yeah, just one being able to, in essence, gain a little bit more map presence back against how many Overlords normal Zergs end up putting on the map. So we have the 2/2, actually +2 weapons just on the way here for Bomber. Not saying that +2 armor just yet, but he's sticking to that bio play, and with this drop potential that he's going to be going for here, it could stretch viOLet a little bit thinly.
There's the forward command center placement, and oh, whoopsie daisies, Bomber should have checked here first and foremost. Seriously, not an expansion. Ignore me. Looks like it's going to be a little bit of a difficult read for viOLet.
And one of those biodome things, like you see right below you, Overlord. Don't worry, just ignore everything that's going on here. But this is a great play for Bomber. He, again, we've said it many a time. It allows him to. Ooh, wait a minute, Zerglings are running in, but they're not going to be able to do too much. But it allows him to be able to not only attack down paths where he wants to defend as well, making it a little bit easier to be able to retreat back, to be able to defend this as the Zerglings run in to try and kill off what they can. Getting a few SCVs as well.
That's good. Oh, that was so smooth.
But also, he can take that free base eventually as a fourth right behind it. So very, very nice play by Bomber.
And look at that, Bomber brilliantly de-sieging a tank to make sure he didn't accidentally kill one of his own. Bomber picks off an expansion that was attempted by viOLet. Viking still being annoying as all hell.
Yeah, and now we have 2 Spore Crawlers actually being added on here to be able to zone out any kind of drop play that will be coming along. viOLet really does not want to have any damage done to these bases. So important for him, creating lovely little positions of defense there at the extremities of these 3 bases. And aside from that, 2-2 is going to be finishing up for him, and he's getting that Ultralisk Cavern. So he's been teching up furiously behind this in comparison to what we're seeing from Bomber. And Bomber doesn't, oh, he does know about the Hive. Ah, very useful.
Wow, this looks like Bomber is taking the long, long route all the way around. And I don't know how much I like that. Right now, Bomber has literally no ability to defend. If there's some kind of attempted swing counter, which viOLet is very well known for. There's the scam, and now Bomber starts to step down onto creep. I don't know how much I like this, Killars. This is looking really risky for the Korean Terran.
It could be very dangerous indeed. Overextending onto creep is one of the biggest downfalls of Terrans from time to time, and here we go. He's actually going to roll in. A little bit staggered in this attack here by viOLet. The Marines micro him back as best they can do, but the siege tanks fall so rapidly, and the rest of this is completely demolished by viOLet.
Gosh, I just don't know about that play from Bomber. Bomber setting himself up for a push through this destructible rock. I mean, this roundabout play didn't deny a fourth. It didn't kill anything. It got a couple of creep tumors at an area that's the easiest on the entire map for viOLet to replenish the creep tumors. So these front lines where viOLet will struggle. Now we see another second attempted push from Bomber. I like this angle quite a bit more, but still, it's a very weak angle given the way that Bomber's forcers are set up.
Yeah, Kaiser's plating going down here for these Ultralists now with that 3-3 on the way. So viOLet shutting down the aggression very, very handsomely. He was able to even shut down a very nice drop with Fungals at that second a little bit ago, whilst he was able to clean up all that force down to the south originally. And for now, it looks like Bomber wants to push forwards once again, but there's Ultralists here. And this is a very, very scary force with the extra Ultralists coming in from the east here. And he's going to be able to push forward. Zergling's closing the gap with those siege tanks, and the rest of the Marines get shredded up by those Kaiser blades.
God, viOLet is looking just unstoppable in this tournament. I mean, every little move that he's been doing has just been absolutely a pleasure to watch. I mean, these little control attacks where most people wouldn't even attempt them because at most you'll get 100 minerals of damage and at worst you'll lose 500, but he always gets that little 100 minerals of advantage. The one thing that Bomber can pat himself on the back for is the fact that he has locked viOLet out of 8 geysers for a long time. viOLet has been unable to get those extra geysers up, and as a result, it's a little bit Zergling heavy.
That's a really, really accurate read there, actually, because, I mean, again, Zergs feel most comfortable when they're on that 8 gas geyser. I mean, that being said, though, viOLet has been able to still get up quite a lot of Ultralisks here. I would love to... How many Queens does he have? He has 3 right now. Do they have any extra energy? I would love to see him just kind of march down there with those if they did, in order to be able to give a few transfuses to those Ultralisks, because as soon as they have full health, they are such meaty units with that 3-3 finishing up in just a little bit. Adrenal Glands on the way as well for those Zerglings, just to be able to flood in, and once those Zerglings connect with the siege tanks, it gets so difficult for Bomber to really do much of anything.
Bomber now transferring all his SCVs the long way around. Planetary Fortress about halfway done right now, but viOLet's going to be hitting from the bottom and counterattacking from the top. Oh my goodness, this top Planetary Fortress is in a ton of trouble. What angle does Bomber go along?
Going to be able to rip up so many of these SCVs once again. A really nice little move here by viOLet, and the Planetary Fortress is now completely under siege. Very nice move there by Bomber, not letting that go at all, cancelling and lifting up.
And now Bomber is going to have to completely re-begin the process of that Planetary Fortress with a lot less workers. 31 workers killed off by viOLet thus far in this game. Oh my god, the Ultralisk count at 10. Big ultra numbers, and now the Zerglings yet again are 3-3 upgrades.
Yeah, but Bomber has been allowed to max out here. Yes, viOLet does have the bigger bank, and actually Bomber's going to move out here, but he needs to establish himself a fantastic position here to be able to deal with all those Banelings morphing in as well. That is going to be devastating if they're able to connect, but Bomber has shown time and time again in this tournament that his splitting is second to none.
While this attack's going on, there's an attack at the back, and viOLet has decided this is a good time to spring in. The Fungals nab most of the units. The Ultralisk trying to step in the front line, slowly falling, and with Fungal Ultra, viOLet just wrecks the front, remaxes immediately, and Bomber is left with only a handful of Marauders.
120 supply right now for Bomber. There's 58 Zerglings and 5 Ultralisks being produced here. Nice Fungal to catch 1 or 2 of these Medivacs. The very big, meaty, costly units there. So he will be able to take a few of those down. And right now, the more Medivacs he takes out, the better this Greater Spire is going to be. Because then, eventually, he has to commit to either producing Medivacs or producing Vikings for when those Broodlords come along, which is always really, really annoying for a Terran to really deal with.
That's exactly what we saw in MC versus Koth. Koth trying to build those Vikings to deal with the Colossus. Had 1 Medivac out, not enough to repair. Same story for Bomber, but viOLet, I don't even think is going to give Bomber enough time. He's going to start barreling down with that big Ultra count.
For now, that Greater Spire on the way in just a little bit here. There's so many Ultralisks. I cannot believe how much damage this is going to be able to do very soon as they do swing in once again here. Bomber on the back foot. So many Ultralisks crashing against the wall here of the Terran. And right now, there's just not enough units for him to deal with this. 11 Marauders, 15 Marines, 5 siege tanks. It's not going to help out as these Ultralisks just chase them back to the natural.
And viOLet instantly remaxing, continuing to rally. Everything's lifting, but amazingly, Bomber's starting to swing around, might be able to stabilize at the front, but not when these 54 Zerglings hatch. The Zerglings just greedily gobbling up every SCV. Vikings land. I mean, Bomber doesn't even know what to do with these units half the time. And now the Ultralisk rushing up to try to join that orbital command. GG!
Oh, viOLet. 2 games up in this best of 5, taking out Bomber potentially here. And again, you know, as I said before, these guys have only met once previously. They've only met in tournament play at least. They met once during the GSL bracket stage, a group stage, where, you know, viOLet was dispatched off by Bomber very, very easily. Since then, things have changed. Since then, viOLet has stood up and really stepped up his game here. 2 games up against Bomber right now. Very, very scary.
I wouldn't count Bomber to be in a well, I wouldn't count him out, but I certainly would put him in that sort of psychologically strained mode. Game 1, just can't read into it too much. Could have gone either way. Neither player was mining for 10 minutes, but cool first game. Game 2, Bomber had a smart plan that just got slapped around right at the start. I mean, the idea is, you, rather than going for Hellion Bunker, or Hellion Banshee, you go for Banshee, then followed up with a tank. What does this mean? Most of the time, the Zerg will overreact, will prepare for Hellion Banshee, and then you have all these tanks and a faster third base, and you can go into that standard normal play. But instead, Bomber just got smacked down by a bunch of roaches right at the start. What an odd way for viOLet to just exploit this completely unusual build from Bomber. It was really clean by viOLet, but really annoying in Bomber's shoes.
It was indeed. So we're going to be jumping on to Game 3 here in just a little second, but I think we might actually be throwing over to Jarrett. So let's throw it over to Jarrett, guys, and we'll be back in just a sec.